Good evening, all you ghouls and gals. Welcome to the Booze and Bourbon Halloween Spooktacular. It's almost that time of year. Everybody loves to celebrate their fears. But I'll tell you what scares me the most. The podcast filled with ghouls and ghouls. A little bourbon may be good right now. I think a drink may calm me down. I know everybody's scared of me, but this podcast is terrifying. Ooh. It's the Booze and Bourbon Podcast. Halloween October Spooktacular.
Welcome to another episode of Booze and Bourbon. It is still the Halloween October Spooktacular, which is very, very exciting. Jen, I don't know about you, but I'm going to be sad when October's over.
You know, we could always just let it spill into November because there really isn't anything, other than Remembrance Day, of course. I mean, we could go to Remembrance Day.
Right. Maybe we'll stretch it out.
We could just start a new trend.
I like starting new trends. It's fun.
Yeah, me too.
We started a new trend of not using a porta potty or a recreational bathroom when you're on a boating adventure.
Yes. And, it's always good to have that spare piece of tissue. We stretched that, I think we only had like 5 pieces of Kleenex, and we like literally tore one square in half to share. It was a lot of sparing the square.
Here's your shred of toilet paper. So last night was my birthday party and we went out on the Salty Dog tour and we went around Oak Island and we had lots of drinks and it was really great. But then like the last 45 minutes of the tour, a bunch of us were like, our teeth are floating. So Tony, our captain, was like, okay, kids, give me a show of hands. Who needs to pee? And like the majority of us lifted our hands. He's like, okay, we're going to go to Squid Island. So he put the boat on the shore, onto the pebbly shore, and let us go pee on Squid Island.
Yep. Now called Piss Island, as Amy said.
I think that's so funny.
Piss
it was
Island.
So much fun.
Yes, it was.
All right. So, Jen, I know
Yeah.
that you've had a good week because I just saw you, and it's pretty exciting to be talking with you again about this super awesome topic, which is haunted thrifting. So I know that sounds a little strange. Thrifting is one of my favorite things to do. I love thrifting.
I also love thrifting. I feel like I was always also the person that had, the attraction to those. I don't know if you would have had it in your area, but like the Sunday flea market where everyone had all their gems out on tables for sale.
Yes.
Similar.
It's fantastic.
Same, yes, just a jambalaya of junk, but you always find some, good gems mixed in there. So
yeah, they do say one man's trash is another man's treasure. I believe it.
Exactly.
Sometimes you can get some really great clothes too, which is always great for the environment. It's always good to recycle anything, but I'm a huge proponent for getting secondhand clothes as well, because sometimes there's a trend that you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on, and then some other times you can get like something that still has tags on it too, which is really great. If you could think of what your best thrifting item ever was, do you know what it would have been?
Yes, it would be the 2 identical shelving unit things I found that just have like little glass shelves. They kind of like, I guess, would hold, I'm going to say knickknacks, even though that's not what's on there. But I actually have some bourbon sitting on one in the kitchen, and then I have the other one with some plants on it. But
oh my gosh, those are so nice, actually.
yes, you know which ones I mean. So I got both of those for, I think, like $40, and I've had them for a very long time now.
Sweet. Do you think that they're maybe haunted?
Well, I mean, going back to that whole story about my home that I'm in now, I don't know if it's the shelves or the mirrors that are still on my wall, but it could be either or. It could be that, or it could be the mirrors from the dead people that previously lived here. So
Right. Perfect. Maybe they like them so much in the afterlife, they just are feeling connected to them.
Yeah.
My best ever thrift find was you know the piece of art that I have downstairs that's like the sunset and the rocks on the beach with the waves crashing?
Yes.
So I found that at a secondhand store. I didn't pay more than $20 for it. I fixed up the frame, and then I was curious because I was like, this is a really beautiful painting and it's original. So I wonder how much this is. So I Googled the artist's name, and it's a Rinaldi painting, and most of his paintings look very similar to what I have, just a little bit different, but they go anywhere from $2,500 to $5,500 US.
What?
I know.
It's a steal of a find.
So it makes me wonder, is my painting haunted? Why did someone want to get rid of it so badly?
True. But I think sometimes people, when they, especially with art, like they might not even realize like that could have been thrifted before you, and like
True.
they might not have known because they wouldn't have thought to check maybe.
True. And I've had people ask me before, because I do like the occasional antique.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, do you ever wonder where this came from, or if it came from somebody who is dead and maybe it's haunted? And I'm like, no, but now that you mention it, thanks.
Yeah.
So I do have a well, it's not really a coffee table, but I use it as a coffee table. It's an old piece of luggage.
Mm-hmm.
And although I don't believe it's haunted, it smelled like it was haunted when I brought it home.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember exactly what you're talking about because it used to sit right in your living room there.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's downstairs too.
And
Close to that painting.
Fun fact is my mom actually has one like it, but it came off of Sable Island.
What?
Yes. I didn't realize
That's cool.
she reminded me of that, but it's like very, very old. She didn't really do anything to it. She tried to keep it in its like original form, I guess. And it's, from Sable Island.
That's really cool. So that is an island off of Nova Scotia that nobody really lives on. Back in the day, a few people did, but it's where there's wild horses.
Yeah.
And it's a huge sandbar, and it's covered and littered with shipwrecks around it.
Yes, exactly.
Spooky.
Spooky.
Maybe it did belong to a dead person. Who knows?
Who knows? But I hope it did, because that would just give us some more excitement. Next time I go over there, I'll just have to, check it out.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, Jen, I have to thank you for this bottle of whiskey that's sitting in front of us, because you gave this to me for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It's not bourbon, but it is Basil Hayden's Caribbean Reserve Rye, and it is so good.
I am a fan of the rye. I won't lie. That's my rhyme for today.
You're so punny. All right, so I'm gonna open this. We can have a little sniff, and I will start telling you about this. So it is from Kentucky. It's made by the distiller Jim Beam. So they use a unique blend of whiskeys that are Kentucky rye whiskey, plus Canadian rye whiskey, and Caribbean rum. So it's finished in Caribbean rum casks, and it's aged for 4 years. It is 80 proof, and it looks really dark, kind of like mahogany wood. And it has the traditional Basil Hayden sort of paper label on it with the coppery little belt. So the bottle looks really nice. So Jen, when you smell this, what are you getting? What are you getting out of it?
Can definitely get a little caramel. Well, I don't want to say I smell the Caribbean, but you can smell almost a little like maybe it's just me, like toasted coconut kind of.
Right. There's definitely toasted nut of something in there.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can smell a bit of the rum, but you can really taste the rum at the end too, which I like.
Me as well.
All right. Well, I just had a little sip, and like I said, it's nutty. I'm getting some nuts. I'm getting some, of course, brown sugar, definitely getting some rum, and the rum makes me feel like molasses, which makes me feel like molasses cookies.
Yes.
But it's got a nice finish, though, don't you find?
Yeah, it is really nice. And it's funny how the flavor changes almost towards the end. And like you said, you can taste the rum at the end. It's like the whole sip going down changes a little bit as it goes from your mouth, like what you tasted when you first put it in your mouth to down the hatch.
There's a lot of flavors going on in there. I don't know that I could drink a lot of them back to back, but I do very much like it. So thank you for that lovely gift, Jen. You are the best.
No problem.
I don't even know if did we say that I'm Kim and you're Jen?
No, we didn't, but I am Jen and you are Kim. And here we are.
And here we are. All right. Well, Jen, I've been thinking about this question for a little bit of time now. And
Oh?
I'd really like to know something.
Yes, please ask.
Would you rather?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you rather find an item on eBay and be like, I want that so badly. It's such a good deal. I've been looking for something like that forever. And you see in the description that it says haunted. Would you still buy it? Or would you rather just spend a fortune on something and then find out later that it's haunted?
I would rather know ahead of time and prepare myself than get the surprise after I've already spent all the money and then wonder why shit's flying around my house and things are moving. Yeah.
Never really quite able to pinpoint what the problem is.
Right.
Okay. That's good.
All right. Well, mine's probably a little on the gross side of that then. So Ryan goes out and he thinks he's, getting one up on you. He's kind of like playing a prank. So he purchases some secondhand thrift store underwear. And also,
you just made me choke on my whiskey. Oh my God.
Yes. And also the matching bra. And he might have even thrown in some socks in there as well.
So are you asking me, would I rather divorce him then or wait a couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, that's probably a good question too. Yes. But so this is the question. Would you rather wear the used items he found or, like you asked me, have some that you purchased yourself and you found out later that they were used, but you don't know if he used them or not. I didn't throw that in there. He might have just bought them and put them on himself. I don't think he would go get you some like super used stuff. So I'm feeling like if he did do it to you, he might have just kind of, wore them around the house for a bit
Oh my God.
Maybe even let the guys wear them while they're watching football and then gave them to you as a gift. So that, or you don't know where they came from.
Oh my Lord.
I mean, it's not like your butts haven't touched each other already, so.
Well, that is true. I would have a lot of questions if him and his guys were wearing ladies' undergarments. But I think I'm going to have to go with the unknown. I just can't visualize things being okay if he's parading around the house in ladies' underwear. Thank you for totally disgusting me. Now I need to drink this entire bottle.
Sorry. Or cleanse yourself with the entire bottle.
Cleanse my eyeballs. Yeah. Okay, guys. So right after the break, we're going to get into today's main topic, which is haunted thrifting. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So we're going to get into our very first haunted thrifting story. It says, I work at Goodwill Industries. We had some haunted items come through our donation area more than just once. To start off, I have been with an East Central Illinois area Goodwill for just under a year as of now, and I have been told of at least 2 ghosts in our building and have interacted with about 2 items people gave us out of fear that they were haunted. I tried to buy the second, but a rule on buying merchandise made me miss out on buying the item. The first of note was a magenta armchair, which was donated by a man who cleans out homes of elderly people whom have died or are being placed in a retirement home, and the families have already pulled what they want or just want to get rid of the clutter. The man, who we'll call Jim, told me as I helped unload a small trailer of items a family had, an uncle pass away with this magenta armchair. Fairly good condition, but touching it felt strange. As he chuckled out a joke saying that the family saw the uncle's shadow around the chair, so they gave it to him to donate, as I laughed and I tell him if I see anything. The next hour, I'm moving the chair to the furniture storage area and keep seeing a shadow in the corner of my vision. Not even an hour on the sales floor, the chair was bought after an elderly man sat down and just ripped the tag off and hobbled off to pay for it. The second was a medium-sized porcelain doll, because of course it was, and a side note, as the store I work at gets dozens of dolls like it a week, but only this one had something else with it, a rarer and older doll. It was in a protected glass box, and I passed joking at the family, the mother and the daughter, "So, is the glass for our protection or the dolls?" To which the mother told me it was the dolls. It was her grandmother's, putting the doll's age at about 90 years, and that I had a habit of moving a cloth that was covering it. So that night, before we closed, I covered the doll to challenge the claim. The next morning, we get a call from our security company saying that a motion detector went off in the room with the doll, and the cloth had been turned roughly 90 degrees around. We assumed it was mice, but our store had mostly non-functional cameras, not anymore, but I can't really verify anything. So the last item is just creepy and may have added a ghost to our store, but I was off on the day the incident happened, so this is just a recollection from who I talked to. One afternoon, an urn was donated in a box of other vases and pottery, except this one had ashes inside. As the box with the urn and vases was being moved by my coworker, who we'll call Julie, she dropped the box since she didn't have a good grip on it, and the ash went everywhere, including onto her. Quickly, they cleaned the ash the best they could and tried to contact the family that donated the ashes, but I can't confirm or deny that they were contacted. Just later that day, the urn and maybe about 90% of the ash was taken away. I say 90% since during a deep storeroom cleaning, more ash was found under a row of shelving that wasn't properly checked. And as far as I know, they threw the ashes out just thinking that it was dust. Shitty.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's crazy. But I can
Wow.
totally see that happening.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. Not the greatest.
No, there was actually this time that I was in Ohio for work, and what looked like an urn was in the house that I was staying at. And it turned out that the family who owned the company, it was like their grandmother's house. So there is a possibility, we don't know, but there's a possibility that, you know, she might have died in the house. We don't know. But there was like an urn shaped thing, and my roommates and I would play tricks on one another, and we would slip it into the bed of the person who came home latest, and then write a little note that said, "Honey,
wow.
I hope you had a good night. You were up late. I was waiting up for you, but I had to go to bed. Love, Grammy."
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
There were no ashes, but it looked just like an urn.
Wow. All right. So, haunted chair at Zach Bagan's museum. Zach Bagans was forced to shut down his haunted rocking chair exhibit back in May, and the devil may have made him do it. The exhibit's closure at his famous haunted museum in Vegas comes on the heels of several people experiencing paranormal activity on May 28th, opening night of the exhibit, and a month after buying the Devil's Rocking Chair. The chair has ties to famed paranormal investigator Lorraine Warren and the notorious Devil Made Me Do It case. The frightening episode started 20 minutes before the first tour group visited. Zach and a friend noticed the door to the chair's room slowly creak open all by itself. Zach also says a light focused on the chair went out when a power cord was mysteriously yanked out of the wall. 2 hours later, he says a woman collapsed, began bawling, and asked, "Why is this happening to me?" Shortly thereafter, she fell unconscious, and according to Zach, who adds the woman was upstairs directly above the
Wow.
rocking chair exhibit. Yeah. Later, Zach says 5 of his tour guides throughout the museum started crying uncontrollably. After just a few tours on opening night, Zach says the stress was too much and forced him to shut down altogether for the night. For now, he says the haunted rocking chair exhibit is closed until further notice. If you're not familiar with the Devil Made Me Do It case, it happened in the early 1980s when Ed and Lorraine Warren were called in to help a possessed 11-year-old boy named David Glatzel. Over the course of several days, numerous Catholic priests attempted to exorcise the demon out of the boy. During that time, the rocking chair would levitate, rock on its own, and even vanish before reappearing again. Lorraine and David both claimed to have witnessed the devil sitting in the chair.
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah. After an exhausting few days, the demon was finally out of David's body, But what nobody knew is that it jumped into the body of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, who was the boyfriend of David's sister. Arnie was living with the family and was also present during the exorcisms. Several months later, Arnie killed his landlord during an argument. It was believed that he was possessed by a demon during the murder, and even the Warrens testified on his behalf during his trial. Even with world-renowned experts in the paranormal and demonology backing him up, the judge wasn't sympathetic, and he was convicted of first-degree manslaughter. This horrific real-life story was the focus of the 1983 book titled The Devil in Connecticut, and is also rumored to be the storyline in the upcoming 2020 movie The Conjuring 3, which I told you I cannot wait to see, and I cannot wait till that comes out.
You're such a sucker for anything terrifying. Oh my god.
I know, but those ones always get me. Anyway, sorry. Getting back to the chair, Zach Bagans purchased it for a whopping $67,000 from Carl Glatzel, who is David's brother. Despite belonging to his family since the 1950s, he decided to sell the chair because he didn't want to take it during a move. And if the chair's history isn't creepy enough, it still has stains on it from the holy oil used by Ed Warren when David was possessed.
Yes.
Sweet Jesus. The chair is said to curse anyone who dares to sit in it. Carl said that those who have sat in the chair ended up with severe back pain, and one of those people even ended up having surgery. And the fact that Zeg bought the chair only hours before Lorraine Warren died, well, that's what you call an incredibly eerie coincidence.
Yeah, I'd say. That's awesome. That's crazy. I don't want to sit in that chair or go anywhere near it.
I don't want to sit in the chair either. I don't want to do it. No.
I believe I have seen something like that come up on like TMZ or something, and I think I saw a picture of the lady who had passed out, but I'm going to have to go back to Google and see if this is the same story. It's crazy.
Oh my God, yes. We need to find that.
Yes. Okay. So the next one is the Bassano Vase. The Basano Vase is a curiously strange tale surrounded in death. The vase was considered cursed by those who possessed it, but seemingly cursed without explanation. In fact, no one really understands how or why it became so powerful or where the curse originated from. Also, unlike other haunted or cursed objects, the Basano Vase isn't available for scrutiny. In fact, its whereabouts are unknown. There are no direct eyewitness accounts of the problematic vase, only stories of its deadly power. From what is commonly known, the vase was a simple silver design weighing approximately 4 pounds and was crafted sometime during the 15th century as a wedding gift. It's been listed on multiple websites as one of the most haunted objects known to mankind, but the lack of details on the origin of the vase continue to perplex even the most diligent students of the paranormal. The earliest account of the vase dates back to the 15th century in a small town north of Napoli, Italy. The legend says that the vase was given to a young bride on the night before her wedding, perhaps as a gift of good fortune or perhaps something more sinister. Unfortunately, the young woman never made it to her own wedding. She was discovered dead the very next morning, and some say it was a murder while others have no explanation. It's likely that the latter has more credibility since there are no records of a murder investigation. The murder angle isn't always part of the story, but it will be examined as we review the stories. Little information has survived about the bride-to-be or her suitor, including their names. Soon after the young woman was interred, the Basano vase was given to another family member who sadly also perished shortly after receiving it. It was once again passed to another family member, with the same unfortunate ending, of course, another quick death almost immediately after taking possession of the vase. The family soon came to understanding that the vase was cursed and connected to death somehow, so they had hidden it away. There are several claims on how it was hidden away. Some say it was buried, while others speak of it being hidden by a priest, presumably in a church or other holy resting place. Maybe that's what's in Oak Island.
Yeah.
Both versions could be true, for the tale takes an abrupt hiatus for hundreds of years. What happened from the time the family decided to part with the Basano vase permanently and its much later rediscovery is unknown. The Basano vase remains hidden until it resurfaced in 1988, bringing more hardship and death along with it. The tale of the rediscovery tells how it was found by an unsuspecting young man who had dug it up somewhere. Again, there is much frustration about the lack of specific details on the locations and names. Some people say it was his yard, while other versions simply skip over the geography. It's also been said that the Basano vase was buried with a note that stated, "Beware, this vase brings death." Apparently, this warning had little effect on the young man who unearthed it. He must have only looked at the financial ramifications of the item and disregarded the message. The vase was quickly auctioned off, and it was auctioned off for $2,500 US to a pharmacist. We don't know the name of the auction house, the buyer, or the man who made the discovery. So the poor pharmacist who purchased this vase, he happened to die just 3 months after him and his family sold the vase to a doctor who himself died at the age of 37, only a few short months later. It was sold once again to an archaeologist who is a collector of artifacts, and within 3 months, the collector too had perished. His cause of death was a mysterious infection. The causes of death in the other modern-day victims have not been detailed. The stories continued with one last sale. Information about the last owner is even thinner than the previous ones. Except for the fact that he had perished less than a month after taking possession, little is known. The string of deaths hadn't gone unnoticed, and the Basano vase became unsellable. And if we're to believe the stories, at this time, a family member of the last victim was said to have tossed it out a window in an attempt to break free from the curse. Although the family was spared further tragedy, the story doesn't end simply. The vase nearly struck a police officer who retrieved it with the intention of fining the person who threw it at him. It was said that the family accepted a fine for littering but refused to take the vase back, and the police attempted to place the artifact in a museum, but word had already circulated about the vase being cursed. So strong was the belief that no institution would accept it. The fact seems somewhat difficult to comprehend, since many of the world's Egyptian artifacts, as well as other things taken from tombs across the globe, are suspected to be cursed, yet still reside inside of museums. A few versions of the story say of one man who could feel the negative energy of the vase and took it upon himself to dispose of it. The Basano vase was said to be once again reburied in an undisclosed location. Some say in a lead box, and others say in the holy ground of a cemetery, and other versions say both. That is one cursed vase.
I would say. Definitely don't want to find that, for sure.
No.
All right, well, moving on to some bunk beds. We have the haunted bunk beds at the Tallman home. In early February of 1987, Alan and Debbie Tallman brought home a bunk bed that they purchased at a secondhand store. They assembled the bed and stored it in their basement. When the Tallmans moved the bed upstairs in May of 1987, it marked the beginning of 9 months of horror for the family. From the moment the bed was first slept in, the house appeared to be haunted by spirits that terrorized first the children and then the entire family. The children, who were rarely sick before, suddenly became ill for no apparent reason. The night that the family moved the beds upstairs, their son Danny was in the room next to it. After his parents said goodnight to him, his clock radio apparently took on a life of its own. It turned itself on and randomly switched the channels under its own power. He reported that he saw the radio's vindicator moving itself. However, his parents did not believe him. A few weeks later, Alan was painting the walls in his basement when he went up for lunch. He placed the paintbrush on the table. When he returned, the brush was in the bucket with the bristle sticking up. When the youngest daughter was sleeping in the bunk bed, she claimed that she had seen a red-eyed witch behind her door. She also claimed that she saw fire in her room. A month later, Danny saw the same thing. The family pastor was brought in, and he felt the presence of evil inside the house. The Tallmans continued to be tormented by these entities. Doors would bang open and shut, strange voices would call out of nowhere, and ghostly visions persisted. A week before Christmas, Danny saw something horrifying and told his mother that he wanted to leave. Frustrated, Alan told the spirits to get out of his house. He then said that if they wanted to fight someone, they could fight him. 3 weeks later, at around 2 a.m. on January 7th, 1988, Alan returned home from a late shift. Outside the garage, he heard an eerie howling sound and went to investigate. A voice came out of the howling and said, "Come here." He went around the back to see if anyone was there, but there was no one. He then went back to the garage and saw that it was on fire. He went inside to get a fire extinguisher, but when he came back out, the fire was gone. The garage door was undamaged. When Alan got back inside, he went to reach his lunch pail that he had set down, but the entity then threw it across the room. Alan started sleeping in his daughter's room to provide protection. One night, a fog appeared around him. A voice came out of the fog that said, "You're dead." Debbie then called the pastor because of what had happened to Alan. A few days later, Alan was working late and asked a relative to watch the girls. His relative was a complete skeptic until that night. The same horrible figure seen by the children appeared, and he let out a loud scream. Debbie then told the relative to get the kids together and that they were leaving the house forever. 2 weeks later, the Talmans had the bunk beds destroyed. Afterwards, the Talmans had no further paranormal experiences. In April of 1988, a family moved into the Talmans' old home and have had no haunting experiences. So a little background. The house that the Talmans lived in had no apparent history of hauntings. Horicon, Wisconsin is a small farming town of just 3,800 people. It is considered a safe and a prosperous place. The Talmans moved into their house on April 13th, 1986.
Interesting.
Yes. In investigations, the Talman, I can't say that name for some reason. The Talman's family pastor, Wayne Dobritz, visited them shortly after the hauntings began. He believed that they were victims of the devil. He was certain that a demonic presence was in their home. He found no evidence that they were fabricating the incidents.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Bunk beds, eh?
Yeah. I mean, we have bunk beds. I slept in bunk beds as a kid. I wouldn't think that would be something that would be haunted, but geez. All right.
Yeah. Like, you can't imagine yourself and your sister in your afterlife hanging out with your bunk bed?
No, but I do recall an incident, and I'm sure she would remember it as well, that I used to be on the top and she was on the bottom bunk bed, and I used to always scare her, so I would wait till she was, like, almost asleep.
You're so
and put,
mean.
like, my sheet on my head and then, like, drop myself down really quickly and yell boo. So... I mean, they weren't haunted necessarily, but I'm sure it was very traumatic for her some nights, so.
She would say they were. Jen, that's terrible. I'm glad to see that you have stayed true to your real self, though. Like, after all these years. Jesus.
Really? Just,
Oh my God. Okay. Well, that pretty much concludes our episode for today. But Jen, I'm so glad I learned that about you and your childhood. I'm definitely going to ask your sister about that.
Oh yes, please do.
So we have some new patrons. So I'm just going to do a little patron shout out because we are so thankful that you guys like us enough to become patrons, and it's pretty fun over on our Patreon page. If you're interested in getting Jen's ex-bartender recipes, if you're interested in finding what the episode is before the episode actually drops on Friday, we do teaser trailer videos, so you get those early. And then depending on what tier you want to go to, you could even get a birthday card from us, and you get to come on the show too if you like. So our first patron is the Ghost Story Guys. We also have Stephanie, Rebecca, the ABV Network, and now we have a new patron, Aaron. So thank you guys so much. The show is just going to get better and better every single time the new month rolls in, because we just keep putting some money aside for some new things to make the show even better.
And I'm just, I'm going to keep on being weird and having some more weird stories about myself, really.
I love it. It's the best.
Trying to scare Kim when I can. I'm just kidding.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks. Oh my God. Okay, so Jen, if people want to find us on social media or follow our fun journey, where can they find us?
Well, they can follow us on Instagram, which is our Booze and Bourbon Instagram account, or Facebook, Booze and Bourbon the podcast. We are also on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and of course part of the ABV network. And am I forgetting one?
No, I mean, there's plenty of other places too that people can find our episode.
Spotify.
We're on Spotify. We're
Yeah.
on YouTube. We're on a whole bunch of them. So don't fear. You can find more of these episodes. And if you guys have any stories for us, we are getting ready to do another listener stories episode. So if you have anything that you want to share, send it in anonymously or don't. It doesn't matter. And also you can send us in some would you rather questions. We always love those as well. And you can send those to boozeandbourbon@gmail.com.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. And I look forward to some really awesome would you rather questions, so I stop asking really disgusting ones and or coming up with even grosser ones.
Yeah, somebody send something in. She just tries to embarrass me every single week. All right, guys, we'll catch you next Friday. Thanks so much for listening. Stay spooky.
Booze and Bourbon is part of the ABV network. For more information or to advertise on the show, please head over to abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.
This has been a Steve Akeley production.